Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. Have you ever wondered about, we talk a lot about motivation, mindset, entrepreneurship, leading, but something we haven't talked about as much, but is almost as important, if not more important, is about self care and mindset. So stick around. We're going to have some tips to share about how we manage our mind share and self care so that we can optimize our output. But before we do, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And also want to give a shout out to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his best-selling Amazon book, Mindset is My Degree. Thank you, Nick Menard.
You're very welcome. Hello, winners.
Hello. So here we are on a Monday, and I'll start real quickly with a personal experience because I had a stretch that was really tough at work. Some unique events happened that hadn't happened before at the company. Some decisions were made. Maybe I didn't always fully agree with every one of those decisions. And then, of course, I implemented my own things with a reorg. So when times are challenging and everything, hey, why not just pile it on and do a reorg? But ultimately, what happened was I stretched myself a bit much and was not operating at full capacity. And I realized it because I started getting a little more unvarnished than usual in meetings, maybe a little less patient. And and when you're doing that to fellow colleagues or senior leaders, it's probably not all the best thing. So I'm like, I need a break. And so I took a break, and that experience is what inspired me to want to chat about this episode. So thank you for being open to this topic to talk about it. But any high level thoughts you have about like managing your mind share and keeping your energy level at a good level before we jump into our favorite segment?
We are all human. And I commend you for starting by sharing your own experience and be vulnerable for winners here. And I commend you because you are an amazing leader. And I don't say that because you are my best friend and you're my co-host, but also because not everybody are like you are for your team and people. And acknowledging the fact that I need some time, it's actually extremely powerful and it says a lot about you compared to try to hide it. And sometimes, I mean, we are all human. Everybody go through stretch, and if you don't do the necessary step in order to get better, you will not improve, and you will not only damage yourself but damage your organization, your team, your people. And being a people leader like you are, that's the last thing I know you want. So kudos to you to
Thank
be
you.
able to recognize this and be human. So that's very important. But I think like everything else, leadership is a sport for me. And in sport, you need to train and you need to take breaks. You need to take time to breathe, take time to recover your body. In this case, recover more your mind and your well-being. So we need to be able to have a plan like anything else in life. So I'm very excited to talk about this topic because that's a topic that everybody and anybody needs to actually apply and hear. So excited.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the kind words, my friend.
Mhm.
And yeah, excited to jump into it. But before we go
There we
more
go.
into it, let's go ahead and get started with our favorite segment,
Quotes
quotes
and
and quips.
quips.
All right. First one, actually have this attributed to Katie Reed, mental health
Can you
speaker.
read?
Katie Reed, she can read. I don't know if she could read, she could write because she's definitely got her quote online, but she's a mental health speaker. So thank you, Katie Reed. Her quote is self care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. Thoughts on that one?
You can be amazing at what you're doing every single day, but at some point you need a break for yourself and mental break. Otherwise, you will not be able to get the best out of yourself for your team as a leader. And so it's better to have consistency in leadership and in the way that you portray leadership and coach people. And by doing so, you need some time off.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be a month, a week. It can be sometimes as much as a longer weekend.
Mhm.
And that actually give you the peace and the relax and the peace of mind to actually get back to where you should be. And then you come back even stronger and you can go to the next level. It's like sport.
Mhm.
If you train 8 hours a day, you will have something happening with your body,
Yeah,
you know,
injuries.
an
Yeah.
injury, ligament, or something like that. Well, in leadership, if you constantly, constantly coach, train, lead nonstop, and you didn't take time for yourself, you will have a mental break.
Mhm.
And so that quote is great from the lady there.
I totally agree. I kind of something that was running through my mind as you gave your response was it's about quality versus quantity. Like if you're just trying to punch out volume, but you're not on your A game, and as well as I do, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. It takes time to build. We had that trust based value added relationship episode, right? And it takes time. But if you slip, you can unravel months or years of hard work in one moment. And so some people may view that as a lot of pressure, but I think it's just more about having the self awareness of knowing, okay, if I'm not on my A game, I probably need to take a pause so I can get back on it.
Yep.
But totally agree with you. All right, this one's a fun one. This one's unknown. I wish I knew who said it. I'd write him an email and say, nicely done. But this quip is some days you eat salads and go to the gym. Some days you eat cupcakes and refuse to put on pants. It's called balance.
Well, balance work in different ways.
Yeah. I guess it's not bad. If you have no pants on and you got called cupcakes, that might be a problem. But look at those cupcakes.
Well,
Oh,
I don't
boy.
eat rabbit food, so I cannot understand the salad part. But yeah, I should probably do more salad as well. But I love the analogy with food.
Yeah.
Because I gave this analogy actually earlier today when I was guest on another podcast, and I said it's important. I think the question of the podcast host was, do you have some example about how to make sure that you keep your mindset to a certain level in order to be able to help others and influence others? I believe that was the question, and I was saying like bunch of things about mindset, but I also mentioned the importance of keeping yourself physically also on point. Why? Because I think what I said is you rarely see um, a successful person being obese.
Except for Brian
I'm,
Windhorse.
I'm pretty. I'm pretty sure you can find. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you can find a couple of examples.
Yeah.
But majority of the time, when you look at
it's true.
CEOs, when you look at important people, you have a couple of exceptions, of course. But majority of the time, those people, they take time. They get up early. They do some spiritual, whatever it is for them, religious or non-religious activities, meditation, and then they go usually to the gym. And it's not to become like a bodybuilder or become like a top model. It's just because the mind and the physical go together. So this quip, I take it that way. Like you need to have a balance in life, not all about eating bad, or doesn't mean eating good every day, but it means a balance. Because if you don't have a balance there, you cannot have a balance in your mind. And you need to be able to have both in order to function properly and to be successful in general in life. And I think it's important. Also, if you eat healthier, you will live longer. So you'll be able to inspire longer.
Well, you have more energy, right? Which again can help with productivity versus if you're feeling sluggish, then you're probably not on your A game.
Exactly. And everybody needs to be or wants to be on their A game when they are working. But in between, you need to take time for yourself.
And every once in a while, have no pants and eat quick cupcakes.
Hey, once in a while, it's all good. As long as don't forget that you're on camera sometimes. So don't just quickly get up, because that will be a quickly get out.
Yeah, that would be a quick one-way exit, but it'd be memorable.
Yeah, sometimes you cannot unsee what you see.
No, I know. Yeah, that is for sure. But I do. I like that quote as well, because to bring me back to my personal situation. So over the Memorial Day weekend, I decided to extend. I had a really light meeting day on Tuesday and Wednesday, not sure how. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna move those couple of meetings out and just take the couple extra days off. So I had the 5 days off in a row. The weekend, Monday was a holiday in the US, and then Tuesday, Wednesday. And I did a variety of things, but nothing that was like very expensive, nothing that was like extravagant. I went and saw the Mission Impossible movie, sat out in my backyard listening to EDM music. I signed up for this Core Serve course and learned about some different AI tools, which was Mind Food. And I actually had individual conversation with both my boys, like deep conversations. Will's thinking about getting his own place. And so I was having a chat with him about that. Spencer's thinking about dual enrollment so that he can start getting college credits. We talked about that. And then and ultimately at the end of it, uh on that Wednesday afternoon, like late afternoon, I was like, feel back. I feel fantastic. And I kind of felt for the previous few weeks almost like a little bit of a cloud over
Hmm.
me. And I was just, mindset, right? I'm just gonna power through this and get through it. But when I started noticing I wasn't as being a patient listener. I was getting quick to critique people who I disagreed with their positions. I'm like, all right, I need this time. So I'm glad I took it, but it could be different things. I could have went without pants and ate cupcakes and walked around. That probably would have helped too. I actually lifted every day, so I did do the exercise and stuff like that. But I think, um, for some people, they find their own thing that works. Like for me, music is always myself. If I always need an energy pick me up, my first go to is music. Other people could be working out, meditation, spending time with family or friends,
Hmm.
whatever it is. But I think the key thing is there used to be a stigma when people would not be on their A game and and they were afraid to show vulnerability, and so they just kind of sucked it up, suck it up. Like I remember my dad always, suck it up, soldier. Say that. And there's merit to that because at some point you do have to power through
Hmm.
things. Like life's not easy. Sometimes you just need to grind through
Hmm.
it. But there is also times where taking a step back or decelerating will actually help you accelerate.
Hmm.
And I think that's the difference between society today versus society maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago is I think it's more acceptable to acknowledge, hey, I need a breather. But I think the one thing that kind of irks me a little bit is that for some people becomes a crutch. And then they're always having a moment or they're always having an issue.
Hmm.
And it's like the lower rungs of the ladder of accountability. So I'm not advocating that.
No, no.
But at some point all of us need to take a break, and you should do that. Or the other thing, I know you know this back when we worked together, where I introduced it and I built it upon with the group I'm in now, is what we call NMT,
Mm.
no meeting time. And sometimes if you can't take a PTO or whatever, block a chunk of time, no meetings, do whatever, read about your business, read about skills that can develop you.
Hmm.
I don't even care. Pay Candy Crush. Like do something so that you're on your A game, especially if you're in a leadership
Hmm.
role,
100%.
because you have to be on your A game more often than not.
I totally agree with you. And you mentioned what works for you, and everybody are different,
Mhm.
but everybody know what works for them. And so have I don't believe that any leader, manager may have a problem with that, but any leader would have a problem if you go to a leader and said, I need some time for myself. Like give me a couple of days or something like that. And like you mentioned, no meeting needed, or
Mhm.
it's not. It's actually positive for the company because the person will be back a lot faster than if they drag it for days and weeks. Because not everybody can recognize that or want to recognize it, or they think that they're above it and they
Mhm.
can. But every human being needs some of those times. So look yourself in the mirror, look of what you need, and do it. If you are a leader, taking advantage will never come to the table because that's not the way leaders think. And if you see someone taking advantage in your organization, they're probably not in the right spot, in the right place, but you see them very quickly. So sometimes a leader asks, and that's something that I remember one of my past director at the time was telling me in a meeting. He started always by, not always, but sometime by saying, Nick, are you happy?
Mhm.
And I thought it was powerful because that's not something you tend to hear
Mhm.
from someone you work with, even more leader. Like,
Yeah.
But I think it's important to understand if your people are in the right state of mind, because when you are doing like your example, when you are a little bit more short, or you have a little bit less patience, or you react a certain way, people see that, and
Hmm.
people recognize that something is off. And if you are close to that person, you may, after the meeting, have a little chat. Hey, are you okay?
Hmm.
Like something like that. And at that time, most of the time, people realize, all right, that's probably, I'm not saying that's what happened with you, but that's something that you can say, okay, that's time for me to actually take a break. And again, sometimes that's short as a long weekend, like you
Hmm.
did. You don't need to take a leave of absence to actually
Oh
get
no.
better,
Yeah.
because sometimes more is too much. And then you start getting into a phase where you just are blaming yourself, or you just go feeling comfortable being out. So you need to, but those times are important. I know some companies they have those mental day. I mean, I heard a couple of
Oh yeah.
people tell me I have a mental day today. I'm like, what is that? So this is actually
Yeah.
a day that you can reset. Um, I have no problem how you call it, but you need to know better than anyone what's needed for you. And
Hmm.
sometimes time alone is important. I mean, in your case, you did some time alone, but also with your family. But yeah, sometimes be away for a little bit is a good thing. And a lot of time people tend to be willing to be around people so they don't think, but then you don't reset neither.
Yeah.
So know what's working for you. And if you don't know, just ask. There
Hmm.
are professionals who are there for that. Doesn't mean that you are crazy or that you're weak. That's actually a take it of being strong to actually ask for help. I mean, I don't really
Hmm.
know how to reset, because maybe someone never had to reset in their life, but they're in a point they need a reset.
Hmm.
So ask advice, and talk to someone who will be able to guide you. And that's going to be also powerful. And, that's my take on this.
Yeah. No, totally agree. And I think as people explore and taking that time for self reflection, it's not about browbeating yourself or being like, oh, why am I feeling this way or whatever. It's just acknowledge reality. So going back to the ladder of accountability, acknowledge reality, find a solution. In this case, it was for me to take an extended weekend and not fill it with a lot of stuff
Hmm.
that I didn't find relaxing. And then move forward, right? And I think um I think it can be so helpful, but I also think like there's still some people that have that old dogma mindset of 8 to 5, well, taskmasters type. And I think what they do is they actually augment burnout in their organization with people, and they probably have higher rates of attrition because people are like, I mean, we know leaders who are great at squeezing every last ounce of effort from somebody. And those people burn out and they leave the organization or they get fired because they eventually, their productivity, quality of work suffers because their pace is just unsustainable.
Hmm.
And yet those leaders continue to get promoted. And it's like, what does that say in the organization when you're doing things like that? They're either not paying attention to what's happening it, or they're promoting poor, unconstructive behavior. Because if all you're going to do is focus on the bottom line as a leader, I really don't consider you a leader. I consider you a manager because you're just managing the bottom line, but you're not leading. You're not inspiring people to be their best selves. And I know we've talked about definitions of leadership, and that's one of those things that we both say it in different ways, but the common element is, can you inspire people to do things they otherwise wouldn't do on their own? Part of that is helping them manage their workload and their mind share. So I'll share another quick story.
Hmm.
One of the leaders I had at the current organization used to look like Santa Claus that I reported to. Sweet gentleman, really enjoyed him. He was the first leader that I had um, at this organization who really was hands off. It gave me a lot of empowerment and autonomy, and it was my first leadership role, so I was very happy with that. But he told a story, and it stuck with me because I was just like, "That is so cool." But how many people would actually do this? So he had somebody on his team, really type A, strong performer, driver, like great, right? But took it to the degree when they would take time off, they were working almost as much on their time off
Hmm.
as what they were when they were on the clock, so to speak. So he was getting these emails and he's like, you got to stop, blah, 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 blah. You just disconnect. They take another vacation. Same thing. He's like, no, you're going to burn yourself out. Third time, they're like, oh, I'm going to take this vacation. He goes, give me your laptop. They're like, what? Give me your laptop. He took the laptop, put it in his desk, locked the desk drawer. He's
Wow.
like, you are going to disconnect on this vacation. The work will be here when you get back. If anything that urgent, I can handle it.
Hmm.
And I was
Wow.
like, how powerful is that? And I was so impressed because that person was pissed.
Hmm.
They took the laptop, but he recognized if I don't do this, this person is just going to burn themselves out. And he valued them not just as an employee, valued them
Person.
as a person to do something like that. So that always stuck with me.
That's super powerful, and unfortunately, it's very rare that you find leader like that. Well, the reason being is that result-oriented business in general.
Mm-hmm.
Every business now results, numbers,
Mm-hmm.
sale, growth, and it's normal
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't do it, someone else will do it.
Right.
And I understand that part, but you always have to put people first because at the end of the day, people's driving everything, and consistency is key. You can always spike, but if you spike and then you drop twice more than the spike, then you're just losing momentum. And then we all know how hard it is to get the momentum back.
Mm-hmm.
But it's better to go slowly, consistently, than to always have the hockey stick, then down, hockey stick, and down,
Right.
because it's more work. It is more mentally demanding to
Mm-hmm.
actually have that constant like up and down to achieve the goal every quarter, every year, than to just have a consistent growth. And even if you have a little dip, it's not that big because it's consistent in the growth.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go back up. So I do love this, but unfortunately, it's very rare to find those kind of leaders, because those are real leader,
Mm-hmm.
and then people you want to fight for. I mean, that person may have, in beginning, be upset about it, but I'm pretty sure that after coming back, they feel it. They feel and we all know as we come back from vacation, when we don't look every day at the computer, that you have like 200-300 emails to look at. That's why you need to block your calendar the first day you come back. Always block the morning to
Mm-hmm.
take care of all those emails. But then you feel refreshed, and that's how you will increase a little bit. Sport analogy, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you like workout, like I'm not even going to sport analogy like basketball, like I always say, but working out. If you want to gain some mass, gain some muscle, the worst thing to do is to work out every single day.
Right.
They always said have some time, like a day or two off, and then you go back a day or two off. And then every month, 2 months, you have to take 4, 5, 6 days off.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you come back, that's when you actually go the next level.
Mm-hmm.
The next level can never happen if you do the same thing every single day. It happens when you take a break and then you change your formula of working out. So your muscle have an impact of something new they don't know, and they're
Mm-hmm.
going to react better. So it's the same principle with your mind and how you function in business and in leadership in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for you. That's better for yourself, which is better for your teams.
Mm-hmm.
So take the time, look in the mirror, and you will be way better off than not.
Yeah, totally agree. Couldn't say it better. I think it's extremely important, and find your avenue. Now, I know some people's lives are very hectic. It seems like their kids' activity
Mm.
are actually like a second full-time job. So, I mean, I know it's not always easy given circumstances, but that just puts an added emphasis on you to deliberately carve out the time. You can find the time. It may not be as easy as for
I
some,
agree.
but you can find the time and you have to take it. And, in my circumstance, I was very upfront. I said, listen, I'm taking these couple days off. I, I just really need to recharge, reset, and unplug. I'm not looking to do 50 things on a honey-do list. I'm not looking to run all over town doing errands. Not looking to take a day trip anywhere. I literally just want to be and do what seems to present in the moment that resonates with me. And to my family's credit, they gave me that space, and it worked. It worked. And the other clue, besides me losing my temper, was I had a phenomenal day. I brought my senior leadership team in and flew a couple folks in. And I was so impressed with the pre-work they did before that meeting that we handled a very major item that was really, really important and tough to tackle. And we solved it in 55 minutes. And then I came back and then next session shared a reorganization I was doing. And some people's roles were changing quite significantly. And they handled it like champions. I mean, it was fluid. Of course, I had let them know something was a reorg was coming, but they didn't know exactly all the different moves. And as proud as I was of them, and I told them that, and as good as I felt about it, I didn't feel as good as I normally would have. And that was the other tell. I'm like, I just need a break because they crushed it. And then, we went out in the afternoon, went to Top Golf and had a great time. But when I felt that, even though I acknowledged how tremendous they were on that day, my joy didn't match the mental acknowledgement of how well they did. And I'm like, okay,
You know yourself.
yeah, that's
You know
time to take a break.
yourself, and
Take
that's
a break.
very important. And last little thing, that's something that a couple of my associates were doing in the past. That when those were ladies, they take a day or an half day because they had children at the house. So what they did, they took a day off and they went in the morning like they go to work. I'm not saying they're lying to their things that they spouse, but they just took a day and they went to the spa. They took a spa day
Nice.
to relax, maybe like 20 minutes from their house, but they took a day to just relax, get pampered, like manicure, pedicure, massage, spa, sauna for a day, and it was what they needed every other month, like a day like this to just completely like get out of the computer, like put in the computer away and recharge. Everybody are different, but if you know yourself, and knowing yourself is a hard part. And not everybody knows themselves, or a lot of people think they know themselves, but they don't. So look at yourself, get help if needed, listen to your peer leaders or anything like that for advice. But once you understand what you need, everybody will benefit from it.
Yeah. No, kudos to them. Because that sounds like a lovely time, and I bet they feel great coming back.
100%.
And that flows through in the quality of work. All right, winners. Well, that'll wrap up this edition. Hopefully you gleaned some nuggets from this. And if nothing else, remember, look inside to create a better outside. And that's always good advice to live by, in my opinion. So with that, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And also please check out nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree. If you haven't checked it out and read it, please do. Inspiring story about somebody born in Belgium who is one of the most advocate patriots and American citizens that I've met. So with that, this will wrap up today's episode. We'll see you next week, winners.
Thank you, winners.